All right, folks. Hey, welcome on back and Happy New Year, might I say, to all of our students and members alike. If you had not joined us last week, but welcome on back. We got a full week ahead of us here, but for another fantastic edition of our Traders Talk workshop today, Tuesday, as always, but January 9th. Great to see all of our students and members alike inside our live trading room. Pop the webcam up right now. Great to see Eric, one of our trial members, joining us here. Leda, Michael, got Herb, got Ray, Leonard, got Chuck, Wayne, got Bill, and all of our students and members alike joining us there inside our live trading room. And of course, just on YouTube, Facebook Live, LinkedIn, etc. All of our social media streams alike right there at Cyber Trading U. Just be a friend, tell a friend. Look to spread the good word of Cyber Trading University. Here we look to follow the big orders out there within the stock market, the big buyers and sellers out there collectively. And today, if you're exclusively a student inside our live trading room, that being a gold student, platinum student, or diamond student of CTU here, you have access to a raffle that we'll be doing at the end of this Traders Talk. So stay tuned. If you are Bill or Leda, got Ray, got Lawrence, Tiago, got Barbara from before, Ravina, Kathleen, got a lot of our gold, platinum, and diamond CTU students just to take part in this raffle that we'll be doing at the end of this workshop. We're going to be offering and raffling off two free coaching packs. It is 3 sessions per pack. So we're going to be offering that at the end of this workshop. So without further ado, Mark says, "Me too, Steve." Oh, of course, we got you, Mark. Don't worry. You as well, of course, one of our longtime diamond students, Mark S. That is. Now, there is so much to cover in this week's edition of Traders Talk. I mean, hey, it is the first full week, technically, of 2024. But we weren't really expecting yesterday to give us as much as we got. And we have so much to discuss just from there. So obviously with what's on the screen here, actually we could sink our teeth into this RXRX stock. I know that Fausto actually brought this up from class actually earlier today. It was a great example where even on level 4, there was a pretty clean example of an iceberg order showing out there. I think it was as high as $15. What I want to do here is, I know Fausto showed that on level 4, but I even want to go into the NASDAQ Bookviewer just to see myself. He was teaching that class and I was running the trading room. So, I wasn't watching that at the exact time that he was, but, he just posted on it before if you're joining us inside our room now. So actually really quick, let me bring up the NASDAQ Bookviewer here for the stock RXRX. Got a couple other columns here I got to tamper with. I thought it deleted. There we go. All right. Let's also filter this guy out here too, because trying to see some larger size orders out there collectively. So let's see what we got. Anything at 15? Well, at 15, yeah, I mean, it's about 43,000 shares through the NASDAQ at least. So that alone you could tell is resistance. Then from there, if you really want to dig deep at $20, but that's a ways away, that's an eternity away, just at 15. That's the resistance that Fausto was calling out in class in the phase 3 course. And you could also tell because there's about 56 total sell orders making that up. There's likely even more volume that was out there through the level 4 program. Not much more. About 51,000 in total. I think what did we have there? 43,000. So the vast majority of this volume out there in the order book at 15 is directly through the NASDAQ. It is right there on NASDAQ Bookviewer. So easy to see at $15, about 43,000 through there. And for the time being, I mean, it broke out earlier and it's trying to make a higher high now. So we'll keep our eyes on this 15 level for RXRX later on today. But just one of many trades that we had called out from today and then from yesterday on top. This isn't looking as good now, QS, but that also ran from earlier this morning. We had our bread buttered, though, on Mara, right? I mean, Mara was such a great trade. Just from last week, the week before, stock essentially went from $10, $11 up to $30 in 2 weeks' time. And, here, if you're a new member of Cyber Trading University, if you're a trial member, if you're on YouTube joining us for the first time, seeing this ugly mug, it's to say that we have been trading these crypto stocks for eternity now. So if you're a longtime member of CTU, Mark, Alex P, Ray S, got a bunch of us, Bill, don't mean to not shout anyone out. We got a bunch of longtime students here just to say, that we call the stock out regularly, and a lot of us regularly do well on this trade. There's a lot of crap on this chart here, so I don't even want to dig too much into what's happening live as much. We'll get to this. Well, we'll actually go to this in just a bit, but this trade that we're watching now and the trades that I took on Mara earlier this morning were largely based on the levels that Mara had from yesterday. So actually here, even one more, what I'll even do is do a little copy pasta here and delete these lines and make it just a clean slate for us to work off of here. So what I want to do is go into the move yesterday, explain the whys and hows and what we were focused on there for the morning and give you my thought process. I shoot straight, I don't BS, and it's just to say, like, I'll tell you if I got stopped out and the thing ran up on me higher. I'll tell you if I chickened out and the stock ran up without me because I was too much of a scaredy cat, things like that. But here, though, is where I'll tell you, normally my mindset goes, I don't like shorting these crypto stocks. I am much more of a bull on them long term than a bear. I'm a big believer in crypto, blah, blah, blah. So it doesn't make as much sense logistically for me to short these stocks, even if they presented a good opportunity, even if the writing was on the wall. And how do I know this? Well, I missed out on an enormous opportunity last week, and it was on Riot, R-I-O-T. For anyone here in our trading room, if you recall, I actually went to take a trade here, and I chickened out. I was like, I don't like shorting the crypto stocks. Even if they drop, I'll find something else. That day, I'm sure I found something else. I don't even recall, but I do recall Riot tanked without me. And hey, I mean, it was a big miss. It is what it is. But but yesterday morning on Mara, that was yesterday morning, easy to say, this dropped off after the open. Let me ask us here. What's that trend from 8 o'clock to 9:30, from 8:15 to the market open to the right side of my chart there that you see? What's that trend? Down, down, down. So I didn't want to short the crypto stocks necessarily. It wasn't like on the top of my to-do list yesterday morning. If anything, what this downtrend leads me to say is we're not as likely to see a strong breakout right away. It might take 20, 30, 40 minutes, might be even more than that. So here, I wasn't exactly saying, oh, I'm just going to short it right away here. But at least after the market opened up yesterday, this is where I'll have to bring more of level 4 out, and I'll show you what we noticed. A couple things actually happened at first on this. So one thing, just I'm going to show you, this didn't lead me to make my decision to take my first trade on Mara, but we ended up seeing a pretty large iceberg order pop up. I know that Fausto even covered this in the morning meeting yesterday. It was one buy order out there making up 100,000 shares. Now that buyer actually pulled his order. Look at that. Right after the market opens up. How cool is this to kind of dig into and see? See the white squiggly line here? That's the stock. So where you're seeing that order get pulled at least right before it comes down to it, that order didn't get filled. That order got actually pulled. Now, the instant reaction at least was a pop. It was a pretty good pop right away. But the first 3 to 5 minutes, we're holding off. We're not jumping in right at first. And even here, as it shakes down, it's like, man, this is a pretty volatile stock. Went from 25.25 down to almost 24.75, almost a clean 50-cent move. It was a 40-cent move there. But more or less, as this fails to hold over 25 and it comes back down under the level, it's just where I say, hey, if it's not going to make that big move going up, then there's a chance it might make that drop off. And if I can grab a good entry at least and set a really tight stop, I don't mind risking 5 cents on half size position, because that's honestly 2.5 cents on a full size position. Is that a lot of money that you're risking? Not really. If you don't mind doing that and you know that you're setting your seatbelt tight, then there's a possible trade on your hands there. So it ended up going over and under, basically, over and under 25. And from that point, like just a big drop off. So really within the first 5 minutes, I went short on this. So I forgot my entry price even. I can go into it was under 25 and it ended up dropping off quite a bit. I left a lot of money on the table on this trade too, because for as much as it drops, I am thinking it's going to bounce. I am a bull on this trade more often than not, much more often than not. So maybe that support could be 23.50, big 72,000 share buy order sitting out there. 24 comes first though, about 30,000, but not really showing a dark red line, orange line sitting there. So what happens? Well, it comes all the way down, goes down to my 23.50, and I do recall as it retraced up, I was like, all right, let's just get out right here, take the money and run. Let me ask us really quick to kind of expedite this review, because I do want to dig into today as well. There's so much to talk about today with Mara, Nvidia yesterday, even the trades that we had otherwise from Mara, like SNTG and everything else today. What time is reversal time? What time normally do we expect to see reversals happen within the stock market? 10:30-ish, right? Sometimes 10:15, sometimes even a slight bit later, like 10:45 perhaps. But that's where, like, even here, I'm a bull, and I'm thinking, well, shoot, what if this pops right back on up after? We got this ETF looming that's going to be hopefully approved. There's a case where it may get delayed one more time. I know everyone's saying by tomorrow it should be approved. That's a slightly separate conversation, but I'm still very skittish on this trade. I'm up a lot, but it's like, I don't want to waste it all. I don't want to flip this big profit into a complete scratch. I know I say at times I'll go break even on a trade and I wasted some profit. I did that today on Mara. I don't like doing that. If you think I like doing that, I don't like doing that. That doesn't pay the bills. That doesn't put a smile on my face at the end of the trade. What puts a smile on my face at the end of the trade is seeing the stock completely go the other way after I get out. And it's like, all right, well, I definitely saved my ass. But at least here, I'm not trying to be perfect. I'm just trying to take enough meat off the bone to, make me full at the end of my dinner. So here, I was just content with getting out right around that 23.50. This dropped off a little bit more afterwards. Had one more shakedown, like nearly $1 too. Like left a lot here on the table actually with one more shakedown. But here at this point, it comes 10 o'clock, it comes 10:15, and this is where my wheels start spinning. Okay, let's try and buy. Let's jump in on this trade here coming up. So on this entry, I did have a pretty good one. It was right off of, it was later on. It was not from that consolidation. It was right here. 24.25. It was a bit later on. I think within this instance here, I did get stopped out on like a break even, like in and out, like maybe 4-cent loss on half size, break even basically. And the thing ran up on me after. Well, later on, I got a really good entry, and it was just based off the VWAP price, based off of $24. Seeing higher lows begin to build. My entry was at 24.22, I recall, and from there, just mid-morning, but led to a great pop afterwards. Trend continued, and it ended up leading to a nice run back up. But at least from there, for as volatile as Mara was yesterday, and it popped up towards 26.50, popped up, I think, close even. Oh, no, that wasn't there. I thought it was going to get close to 27. But yeah, I mean, 26.50, that's a hell of a move. So where I'm coming from here is, well, hey, today there could be another stock that could run. There might be something that takes my attention away from Mara. Hey, it could have been RXRX. And Chuck killed it on this trade the last couple days, one of our students. Could have been RXRX. This just wasn't up anything in pre-market, though. So I'll even show you my Benzinga scanner here. This is what I'll look at in the pre-market in the morning, this one. And you could see, like, looking at stocks that were up more than 3%, 4% throughout the pre-market this morning, they're all kind of nonsense stocks. They're all kind of low float, small cap, nonsense garbage stocks. Fausto said it literally himself, just word for word. He didn't like really what was out there in pre-market. So if there's really nothing out there that's floating your boat that you're really a big fan of in pre-market, that right there is your reason to say, all right, well, let's check out our side list. Let's check out maybe Nvidia from yesterday, which obviously we'll get to coming up. But also let's get to Mara. Let's get to Mara. And even now, Mara popping up with me in it here. Hopefully it doesn't shake back down violently. I hope I don't jinx this thing. But at least that takes me to this trade here today where, it did well on it yesterday. I had to plot new levels after the trade. So here we are now. And these are the levels that I worked off of going into this morning. So in fact, actually, I want to show this on the recording because, it pays to be a member inside our live trading room. And I mean that not just for any marketing purpose. It is true. Fausto and myself are not licensed FAs to where we say, oh, buy and sell at this price or time. We literally can't do that. But what we teach you in our classes and here in Traders Talk is basically just how to follow momentum, just playing off support resistance levels. So the more often that we see something happen over time, then we're more likely to expect to see it in the heat of the moment. So here, really quick, there we go. I posted this at 9:25 this morning. It was just right after Fausto finished up the meeting. Hopefully this thing doesn't stop me out coming up here. But I wrote to you. I said, Mara, $24.77 to $25. That combination is the first support. After that, we may not see big support until 24.12. So I gave you the playbook there as far as the lines on my chart. And then right after I said 26 is basically first resistance, meaning like basically this combo here as resistance. So what do you think I did this morning when the market opened up? And Mara's really like the only stock I was like jumpy towards. It's really the only thing I was like setting myself up for in the morning. Well, I followed those levels and I jumped in on this trade right away. I averaged in, but it was right under 25 as my entry price. And from there, it ran up pretty nice. But afterwards, this is where even on a coaching call before with one of our students, this is the trade I'm in on right now. Hey, I mean, when a stock breaks through a big level, we should be expecting a big move shortly after. So the fact that this did play level to level here is great, but we're not even trying to be perfect like that. We're just trying to get enough to satisfy ourselves at the end of this trade. As day traders, at least, we have a lot of swing traders joining me here in our room or on YouTube right now, or long term position players. You're not as jumpy to just get out, get back in, right? And on the flip side of it, I just want to let you know I'm not a scalper. I don't like scalping in and out, in and out, in and out, like tiny like trades within just a few seconds apart. That seems like impulsive. But hey, to each their own. Everyone has their own cup of tea, right? At the end of this workshop, you might not find day trading, good for you. And, to each their own, right? But this is where, though, I'll tell you, I follow my basic core catchphrases. When I'm in this trade from basically 25, a shade under, I would love to get out here perfectly, but I'm just as content getting 50 cents on this trade, 60 cents on this trade, at least a decent chunk of it, more of the run than not, right? I don't want to come in this trade to make 10 cents and then for the stock to run up 80 cents without me. That doesn't increase my confidence as a trader over time. And I mean, hey, if you're not able to lock in a big profit consistently, that might be easy to hear. Like, oh, well, you should be in my shoes, right? I've been there. Trust me. It's taken, a decent chunk of time for a lot of us, at least, to kind of, cling on to that sentiment. Okay, I got in at the right place here. It's right at my entry level. I'm just a few pennies above that entry level. I didn't chase it. It's right there. I set my stop tight. What's that catchphrase again that Josh says? When a stock breaks through a big level, what should we be getting? A big move. So, I'm not trying to walk out with 5 cents profit, 10 cents profit. I'm trying to follow that basic sentiment. So I don't need to be perfect, but if I can get 50 cents on this trade and it runs up an extra 20, 30 cents more, I don't really care that much. It's not the end of my world. I'm extremely happy. I'm elated at the fact that I made 40, 50 cents on a trade, right? On 1,000 shares, that's $400, $500. And 500 shares, that's a day's pay to kick off your morning just on one trade. Come on. That's where even here, that's where I bring it to my next trade that I'm in right now with one of my students from before. When a stock breaks above resistance and it runs off of it, well, we'd like to think that resistance should become support. And especially if there's two price levels that are like really close to one another, just like these two were. Break out my ellipses today. Just like those two were, just like these two are. These two are a little further off, I'd say. I don't have my calculator in front of me, but it's like 35 cents, 32 cents apart. That's like pretty far away. Really, if they're within arm's reach of each other, you could use both of those levels as a range of resistance. And then once it gets broken above, that resistance becomes a range of support. So right now, this has been a phenomenal trade right from this little circle here. My student Barbara and I just jumped in basically at the same time, just right off that area. And I set my stop. I said, hey, if it breaks below this white line, odds are I'll take a loss. My stop is at, I think, it's 67. So this one would be, a loss on this trade. Now, at this point, I think I'll be an intelligent person and look to at least move my order up a smidge here. Just make sure, lock in a little profit now at this point. I don't want this to break lower at this point. At this point, we've just seen a higher low get built. Higher lows hopefully could lead to a higher high. But if we don't get that higher high now soon, especially with this like kind of, in this range, we'll call it this area, the last hour, I just don't want to be on the receiving end of a loss, right? And break even. I'll move my stop up to take a little profit now at this point, but Bill, who sent in an email earlier today, I got to catch that. He says, got 3 different trading accounts. He has a day account, a swing/long account, and then separate from both of those, he also has an options account. So that's a great way to divvy it up. I like that. You know what Fausto says. You want to make sure that you keep your day trades separate from your swings. Your options account you can keep separate as well, and it definitely doesn't hurt. If anything, it just cleanly divvies up your settled funds up better, right? The money that you're able to at least go through and use on a day-to-day basis. All right, so the Mara trade we did cover here basically from head to toe. Did more of an expedited, review on it the last 2 days here. If anything, for just future speak, just for what's ahead. This purple line, 2671. That's just simply a chart level. That's just the highs basically that we had these last few days. So if we could break that, then you're looking really strong. But that's just kind of what's ahead on this trade. This is a CVP level from yesterday. Whoops, I moved that right there. Come on, buddy. There we go. Yeah, this was a big volume level back from yesterday's trading. So it moved up there and it held it. It popped it here, and I thought there was case to see a run, and just right place, wrong time maybe. But maybe later on we can get a re-break above this white line next, and then the real run that we wanted there. But let's actually jump to NVIDIA. I do want to make sure that we have enough time to talk about this trade because, well, hey, it's moving right now. There we go. But let me ask us here, speaking of options, Bill, great segue, my friend. Thank you. Who here trades options? Who here trades options? Got a bunch of us. Loaded question. I trade options. Chuck trades options. Lee trades options. Linda, Herbert, Eric, Ravina, Charles, Brian, not him though. Well, that's with a smiley face. Brian, you count, obviously. Steve, Tony, got Bill, Andrea, Farouk. There we go. Got all of us just joining us here, basically. Now, here's the thing. Here's my MO with options. This is what Fausto will say. He'll be the first to say it. He'll fire me if I don't say this. I'm semi-joking with that. He might actually. You got to be a great stock trader to be a great options trader. It's the underlying movement of the stock that will affect the option price, that will affect the premium that you're trading. So, of course, there's other factors that play into that: in the money, out the money, how far away it's out the money if you're deciding to do that. If anyone that focuses in on the Greeks, the deltas, the thetas, I personally don't, teach their own. There are a lot of factors that go into an options position. Don't get me wrong. At the end of the day, the biggest factor is just the stock. It's the underlying movement of this trade here. And especially based on the levels that the stock is trading, right? There we go. I got to get through a few different emails. Actually, earlier today, I wrote that in chat before. I did say earlier today. I got a bunch of emails I do have to get back to, including Traders Talk emails that may be left over. So I know I've got a couple here. Bill and Roseanne, I do have to get back to. Joyce as well on top if she's here. But, NVIDIA. Hey, I did not trade this yesterday. I told you going into Traders Talk today, this would be more of a Captain Hindsight review where, we're going to go back on this like we did with Mara, but I actually traded Mara yesterday and today. I did not trade NVIDIA yesterday nor today. So this will be a lot easier for me to be like, oh, yeah, it did this, did that. But, we called this out as soon as the market opened up yesterday. Of course, it made the pop that we all saw. And from there, hey, just right away without even going into levels, well, typically around 10:30, we should expect to see reversal time, right? So right around 10:15, 10:30, we should be getting that, so to say, reversal time. Lack of momentum area there. So you could see even at 10:15, 10:20, it started to, and it broke higher later on, but that's just a very simple core concept. I mean, that's something we do in phase 1 class. I think it's like our second or third class that we teach now. All right. Now, the answer is on the chart before. We know it took off after the market opened up, but for all of us here at least, hey, contrary to what the market was doing this morning, basically, what's the trend of this stock from 8:30 leading into the market open? From 8:30 leading into the market open, basically, I'm not trying to give you a curveball question. What's the trend of this stock? Up, right? Is it possibly making a lower high here? Maybe. I'm just asking from 8:15, 8:30 to the market open. It is trending upward, right? So is it as much of a surprise for me to see this take off right away? Not really. Not really. But the question is, where could someone have entered on this trade? And not just the stock, but how could they have positioned themselves up for an options call on this? Now, for anyone that does like credit debit spreads and anything above like the basics options class that anyone can go through. I do simple puts and calls and mainly calls. So, I'm just going to show you where I would have taken an option call trade on this. And if anything, just to mention, I wouldn't be doing out of the money as much. It would just be in the money, or it would be like maybe a very small smidge out of the money, very slight smidge out of the money, if anything. So that's just like kind of what I look for when I'm trading options, no matter what. Now, let me bring up level 4 here. I'm going to bring up the heat map. I'm going to try and make this as clear and as easy as possible. All right, so where do we have dark orange lines going across this page, folks? For all of our students inside our live trading room, where do we have dark orange lines stretching across this page here? 25, right? 25, geez, dyslexic here. 500, 500, right? You got 14,000 share sell order out there, $500. And then Ravina even goes as far as saying there's actually something pretty nicely built here at 495. And that's a great answer too. Just from a more zoomed out look, 500 is like the easier answer on the eyes. But hey, look how long this orange line was out there for. And it looks like this broke through it. So that's a whole separate conversation. But the fact it was out there for as long as it was, yeah, it's actually two answers there. I like that, Ravina. So 500, 495. Now, a trade like this, normally I would be saying that every $5 you should be expecting some, sort of iceberg out there. So 505, even if it's not showing, what's ahead after that? Actually, there's a lot that's showing here, it seems. 510, about 8,700 shares, not as much. 515, about 15,000 shares. So basically, every $5, you're seeing some sort of iceberg level. When you're looking at a trade like Nvidia, like AMD, as expensive as it is, you can't possibly look at that chart and say it's trading every dollar. Because when you look at the order book, when you look at even the matrix here, my, level 3 here, it's so skimpy, it's so spread out and thin that between that and the price, you're at least looking at every $5, at times even every 10, but at least for now, Bookmap just showed every 5. So we'll start with that. So I'm not going to necessarily plot all of this. We'll kind of expedite the review, but at first, hey, our first big level means at 500. That's just the price to watch there. And the more times that NVIDIA can break over it, especially in a shorter time frame and a smaller concentration, there's a great chance to see this run. So what happens? Ooh, this is really nice here, actually. So check this. Notice that it only breaks above it here at this point, and then it runs. It's a clean pop and run. But, and here's the but part, when we look for a test, it's easier on the eyes if it's a false breakout, because you obviously know it broke above the price if there's like an upwick above it, right? It hit exactly on the kisser, 500, on the nose, like right there. So that means that iceberg order started to have gotten to get filled right there at 9:35 in the morning. On the next candle, there's no volume filled at 500 there because the high is 499.98. It does go to show, though, at least here, at least there is a test. In fact, we could actually put this under a microscope just for a small bit here. Let's just show you. It's easy to look at this and say, oh, you should have gotten in over 500, right? Or you should have bought $500, calls, whether they're in the money or out of the money by the time you jump in. But as soon as it breaks the level there, you basically do want to take that trade. That's easy to say in hindsight, kind of looking at this here. But what I care about is the level test at first. So it did test 500 here at first, and there was as many as like nearly 40,000 shares that were filled. There were 40,000 shares that were filled right on this test of 500. Let's see if I can go in exactly. Does it show 500 exactly? Ooh, may not have been. May not have been right there. Wow. Bookmap level 4 doesn't show it technically, but on my naked chart, it does show like just exactly 500. So there is a little bit of inconsistency there. Hey, it's for you to decide, honestly. It's a breakout over 500. It's breaking through a big level on the way up, and it is after 9:35 in the morning. So that is kind of your caveat to try and take the trade. if you were hesitant to wait for one more test and nip of that level and then to take it from there, I don't blame you either. I think that would be a great and smart idea. So this is just a very good instance where it makes a clean breakout. It's everything that you'd hope to see in a trade, of course, because who the hell wants to have any pullback or any turbulence after you jump in? So this does everything that you'd want it to do if you were to have jumped in here, or if you were to have bought the calls right at this break here at this point. But otherwise, of course, it continues. Here's where I want to look at the daily chart, because it was 500 and it was also another price. So we just showed book map, but let's even just go to the daily chart. Right there. Yeah, I mean, basically you can round up and say $505. 504.33 this peak here. 505.17, so it did break over 505 that day. The all-time high technically is 505 and 48 pennies, but generally speaking, you could say that this is building a pretty solid resistance under 505. Just chart level. In fact, before obviously what we saw here, is there a chart pattern that stands out to you looking at this daily chart, dating back to just late November, early December? Is there a chart pattern that looks pretty familiar to you, just the way this was building out from left to right? We called it out live. That's the thing. Like when we saw this break over 500, I was like, "Oh my God, geez, this thing's flying!" And we looked back on the daily chart. I said it right away. I'm like, "This looks like pretty interesting. Like this could be a really good pattern." Now, Mark and Bill both answering the same question or same answer there. Inverse head and shoulders. Not I don't see it as much, but to me, what I'm kind of gearing up for is the Fausto flag. You have a beautiful set of higher lows that were building, and at least from mid to late November, this peak was holding pretty well. So maybe you can say, all right, well, if it kind of keeps holding at 505 as the top, that really shows it. But it's the set of higher lows that you're seeing, and it was pinning itself under this line. So if you had missed it off 500, to me, I don't like chasing, and I don't like just jumping in to jump in. But if it could break over this 505 next, or at least flip that into support over time, then you have a pretty fair entry there too, it seems. So clean chart breakout, chart pattern that broke out, and obviously led to a great run. But combining at least the resistance that we had with reversal time, easy to say it topped off right around 10:30 at 515 the price. Basically every $5 you want to count as some sort of a level, as we said, right? 510, 515, above that 520. So even heading into the afternoon here, let's see. Got close. It actually popped up to it heading into the market close, into the after hours. It was over it heading into the market close there. Well, here today, at least using that 520 price level, it broke under it here and tanked. So resistance or support should become resistance here at first. This is not a surprise to see resistance hold. But then the more times it nips and gnaws at it, we could get a break. And hey, it ended up flipping it afterwards, right? So pretty good move off 520 today on NVIDIA, to where perhaps you could have bought the 520 calls on the breakout here of this line. Otherwise, the only thing that I would likely use here would be the closing print from yesterday, wherever that may have been. Current time right now is 11:40, folks. If you are a gold, platinum, or diamond CTU student of mine, stay tuned. We're going to be raffling off 2 coaching packs coming up at the end of this workshop. Again, you need to be a student, a gold student, platinum student, or diamond C2 student to qualify for this raffle that we're doing at the end of this workshop. If you are interested or want to know more about the education, just talk to your education advisor at that. Closing bell print from yesterday, 522.53. It's even above this here. So interesting. Let's reverse engineer this a little bit. 522.53. That was the big closing bell print. About 2.3 million shares were filled at this exact price yesterday at the close. So I'll tell you what, it wasn't really too strong of a level here, maybe. Tried to be one here. It was holding pretty well here. Off of it pretty well. but then it got a little hairy around this closing bell print from yesterday. Given the size of that transaction, it was a 2.3 million share print. You definitely need to put some good weight into that level and say that should be a strong price to watch. So here at first, hey, I mean, that's pretty much status quo. It is doing a good job holding it. Now, the more times it does nip it, we should expect for support to break. So you're seeing support get broken through here. It became resistance. And actually, how about this? This will be a nice instance here. Get my ellipses back up. Isn't this just the same pattern as what we had earlier this morning on NVIDIA on a smaller level? Break under, resistance on a little false break, and then the real move just shortly afterwards here, right? Is that not the same exact deal as this? Same exact thing. So in terms of trading, where I say that my best entries to buy a stock are directly after it breaks through a big level on the way up, I'm looking at that in terms of resistance and the pop above a clean ceiling or resistance level. But in terms of seeing support hold, well, you got to see the under and over. And it started it here, but the more support gets tested, it's more bound to see some shakes and at least for it to weaken and not really provide as cleanly as a great support at the time. So it took a number of minutes, about 20, 30 minutes for it to materialize and ended up getting the better move now. Now, let me ask us, what's our next resistance on this trade? If we're saying $5 levels that this stock is trading within, what's our next level where this stock is basically trading? Mark, Brian, Sam, 530. Ooh, perfect timing, my friends. Perfect timing. Because right now you got a 43,000 share sell order, about 1,300 total orders, making that up at $530. Are you kidding me? And that's just on the NASDAQ Bookviewer right there on level 3. Don't need to go anywhere else to see that, really. You know, I mean, we have a couple questions in relation to the NASDAQ Bookviewer coming up, and we're going to answer those, but looks like that order just got filled. Big spike of volume just came in right here. Big prints on the tape. 529.99, 530 on the gun. Does look like a lot of volume just got filled exactly at 530 right there, about 83,000 shares in total. All right, so, you know, in terms of preparation, right, this is more of like a kind of Captain Hindsight comment or analysis that I'm making here for you because you called the stock out in the moment, yesterday and today, but I didn't trade the stock. So it's a little bit easier for me to put this under a microscope and say, oh, it did this, it did that. You know, at least on Mara, that was a trade from earlier today, and I got stopped out on it just now, I believe, right there. So got stopped out break even at this point. I actually think I moved it up to make a few pennies, but that's not even the point. This thing, if it's not going to make that big move up, it's going to make that big pullback. Same to be said with NVIDIA, but in terms of entering the trade, at least just jumping in, you're not going to have any confidence in taking the trade if you don't know where to get in the trade from. And at least for me, I'm going to have more confidence finding out that where if I have more time to figure it out, right? Like, you know, hey, at my desk at 8:30 in the morning, what am I doing? Am I reading the news? You know, am I watching SportsCenter on TV? I might be some mornings, you never know. Or am I plotting my levels? Am I figuring out where my iceberg orders are out there on level 3 and level 4? Again, just yesterday it showed on level 4 that NVIDIA was trading every $5. So even if that iceberg order at 530 wasn't showing yesterday, that's just your next assumed level. I mean, it just the writing was on the wall here all day. So that's where I say you got to make sure you provide yourself enough time to prep and get ready before the market opens, at least here. 510, 515, 520. Ahead here a smidge above 525, and then, you know, real time right now. 530. Oh, and look at this. You got an extra one on top. Bonus. You got a bonus iceberg. Here we go. So not at a $5 price, but all morning you've had this here too. About 78,000 shares. It was pretty similar size to the one that was there at 530. Right there, right? 530, about 77,000. This was not far off, about 68, 69,000. So that will provide a complementary level of resistance here. This would be a really tough break, I feel. If this could break over both of those lines cleanly, then man, this can really fly. I mean, 550 would be pretty much in line next after that, I feel. A couple questions coming in the chat. I want to go through emails coming up next, though. So, I wanted to focus on Mara. I wanted to focus on NVIDIA. And then I want to go through these two questions from chat right now, but we'll go through email next. So from Herbert asking, can you tell if that was a big buy or big sell order? The one at 530 was a sell order because it was on the ask. It was on the sell side of NASDAQ Bookviewer. So we teach that namely in the Phase 1 stock course, Herbert. Just join me in the Phase 1 class. It's about 12 classes going into 2024. It's a rotating cycle of classes, but mind you, we'll talk all about this in those classes ahead, and like a full 60-minute class pretty much there. So, our next level, 532, it did show it right here. It did show it. But, the bid is the buyers, the ask are the sellers. That's how you're kind of divvying that up. Kathleen asking, in getting ready at least, are you using TradeStation charts? 100%. Absolutely. That's what I was just using Mara here this morning. These were the lines I put up at 9 o'clock this morning, 8:45 Eastern time this morning. So my ellipses I put up afterwards, but all the lines I put up at least before the market opened up. All right, so we got a bunch of emails we got to go through here actually first. And with that, let me answer a quick question in relation to the NASDAQ Bookviewer. Actually, I had the same question from two students. So actually, I wanted to answer both here for Roseanne and for Bill. I believe they both asked the same one. So more or less asking in relation to, they already have level 4. They already have Bookmap. They were asking, hey, does it make sense to get NASDAQ Bookviewer as well? If you don't mind spending the $15 a month on top, then do it. That's literally my answer. If you don't want to pay the extra $15 a month, then I believe that level 4, you have enough to work off of there. If you already have it, stick with level 4. If you don't have level 4 yet, it is a bit expensive. So that's where we'd say, hey, if you're not ready for level 4 yet, if you're a new student joining CTU, if you're a trial member, we want you to be focused more so on the NASDAQ Bookviewer level 3 and then go from that point. Once you start making money with us on a consistent basis, once it starts paying for itself, that's where we say, all right, you can start playing with some more advanced tools, some more expensive tools, mind you, as well. But, Bookmap level 4 would be that next step. But, that's where we say for, the majority of students otherwise, NASDAQ Bookviewer is your starting point there. If you already have Bookmap, then I think that you're in the right hands, you're in the right spot. I use Bookmap myself. All right, so I just wanted to answer that there briefly. I'm just going to go through some emails as well on top. So, and really quick, if your account switched over from TD Ameritrade to Charles Schwab, as my student Roseanne had hers done, you need to get in contact with them to get the Bookmap set up if you're running it through Schwab/Thinkorswim. So, I think that's like per person. It depends on your account and when they transferred it over. I'm unfamiliar with the deadlines and guidelines on when they ended up setting that up. So I feel like that should have all been taken care of at this point. We're already Jan 9. So, just if you're on Thinkorswim and use Bookmap, please just get in touch with Charles Schwab and they'll be able to at least give you more insight on that. All right, so here are a couple emails I'm sifting through in regards to our coaching program. Some students I'm going to respond back to later on today. Just, of course, Larry, Joyce, David, in regards to your next session. Alan as well. All right, I'll tell you what, I just sifted through a bunch of, not those, but otherwise a bunch of other emails that were bullcrap. So at this point right now, I think I've gone through all of my emails that had questions or trades that they wanted to go over on them. So let me jump back to the main chat board right now from Lee. Lee asking, in relation to options trades, what expiration date do you typically use? I typically go for the same week, but if it's on like a Thursday, Friday type deal, I'll go the next week out. So today is a Tuesday. I didn't trade options today, but if I were to have, like if I was going to do the NVIDIA trade from earlier today, then it would have been for this Friday likely. Just for this Friday, cheaper option, cheaper premium price. But the thing is, you don't want to get too close to expiration date. Just false breakout, right? When we're trading stocks, it's easy for us to set a tight stop and be like, oh, right place, wrong time. Oh, that's why we have our seatbelt on. Okay, thanks. When you're trading options, unless I mean, I'm not even familiar. Maybe there could be margin requirements with it, but just otherwise, I'm using a cash account. It takes a day for those funds to settle, so that's not really bad at all. But otherwise, you don't want to jump in on a trade right place, wrong time, and the expiration date is like same day or it's like a day away, a couple days away even. Just it provides for a more volatile move. So if you're not prepared to take that loss, or if you don't have your stop set there, you're gonna get squashed. There's other factors that play into liquidity or the volatility of an options trade. Liquidity is a large part of it. So, on top of just the expiration date, you got to make sure it's a pretty liquid options chain. That's all. Tony says Schwab is saying it won't be ready till late March. Ugh. I'm gonna grab my bucket of tomatoes, start throwing them at him. Brian says nothing changed for him yet either on it. Bill says Bookviewer just seems to be a good, quick way to see big orders out there. Absolutely. Again, my answer is my answer. If you don't mind paying the extra $15 on top of paying for Bookmap, then perfect. That's all. Not everyone's on the same budget. I know a lot of us like trying to clear up their monthly bills and all that stuff. I just did that recently, so that's like just my transparent answer, right? If you don't mind paying the extra 15, which to be truthful, if you're making money with us every day, it's paying for itself. Literally, you can't be a penny pincher. But if you're not making money with us consistently, then just, that's kind of playing into it all. But Wendy says, do you trade pre-market before the 8 a.m. move? TradeStation doesn't allow me to trade until 8 a.m. So myself, I don't trade until 8 a.m. if I'm trading pre-market. If you're on Schwab and you trade before 8 o'clock, let's say if you trade at 7 o'clock, you could do it. 7 o'clock, there's a lot of news that does come out. It's an all right time, but here's how you think about it. There's a lot more people at their desk at 9:30 than there are at 8 o'clock. There's a lot more people at their desk at 8 o'clock than there are people at their desk 7 o'clock. And there's people at their desk more at 7 o'clock than there are people at the ass crack of dawn at 4 a.m. Eastern time. And I'm putting it that way because there might be some traders that you see in our room that like are doing some things at the crack of dawn. I'm talking 4 a.m., 5 a.m. Don't let it affect your trading. There's not nearly as much money being traded for you to find iceberg orders at the ass crack of dawn, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning, as there are later on. Now, to answer Wendy in full, hey, at 7 o'clock, when there's a lot more news coming out, and certainly a lot more traders at their desk at 7 o'clock, 7:30, that's a good time to be trading pre-market if you're able to. Just you got to make sure the stock is liquid, have a good spread, have all of the redeeming characteristics that you need to have in the regular hours for pre-market. So the one thing I will say is, even though 7 o'clock, 7:30 can possibly be a great time to trade, it's not always at that time that we tend to see the most ideal, optimal stock for us to be trading at that time. You know what I mean? So that's just the catch 22 there. You should just expect more people to be trickling their way into the market as we, gear towards the open. So 7 o'clock, definitely 8 o'clock for sure. And that's like pre-markets open across the board at that point. So, TradeStation opens at 8 o'clock for their clients and myself. So, that's just my main reason why I don't trade before 8 o'clock. I'm not switching brokers to do that really. Teach their own on that, right? If you have work midday and you could only trade pre-market hours, then I'd suggest for you to, tailor your trading around that time frame, 7 o'clock, 7:30, 8 o'clock, etc. If you're on the West Coast and you don't like waking up at 4 a.m. Pacific time, I don't blame you. So, there is not a necessity to be trading pre-market unless if it is affecting your personal life schedule. That's where, hey, if you're on the West Coast and you're finding it hard to trade the mornings, we got the afternoons. At least by 9 o'clock your time, that's 12 o'clock here coming up as we're almost finishing up Traders Talk. We got a raffle coming up in just a bit, but it's just to say there's a time and a place for everybody, but you got to make sure that you're following tradable stocks. Actually, I worked with one of our students, new student in Belgium just last week, and hey, it's better for him to trade pre-market because, he's at least, well into his, day at that point. His brain's on. The lights are on up there at that point in the day for him. So he's not just wiping the crust from his eyes. He's at his desk and he is extremely attentive. And he's able to do that because he lives, just, in Belgium, just different time zone. So that's kind of how I think of it, right? To go a step further, at least without going too much further, because we got to do this raffle coming up next. For anyone that you may see like make money here, make money there, unless if they're providing tangible thoughts and education themselves as far as why they took those trades, maybe you could study their entries and exits afterwards yourself. But this is a one-person race. It's you against yourself. So it's really a matter of you studying the trades that you were focused on, the trades that you entered. Even if you didn't enter it, hey, maybe you were focused on it, and you can kind of go back on that move afterwards and see, well, where could I have gotten in on that trade, right? So from Leonard here, really quick, asking, is there between TradeStation charts and others? Nah, not really. TradeStation's just my broker. That's all. I have some students. Actually, my student from Belgium, I believe, he trades via TradingView. He connects his interactive brokerage account to tradingview.com and uses the TradingView charts and trades directly through there. To each their own, as long as you're able to get real-time fills and there's no delay with order execution. That's it. All right. So again, folks, for our raffle coming up, you need to be a student, not just a member inside our live trading room. So access to the phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 classes, meaning gold, platinum, diamond, CTU student. You know who you are if you are that, certainly. So we got a lot of us here joining us here. Tony, got Lee, got Kathleen, Bill, got Phil, got Ravina, Eric, got Barb, got Barbara, got Grant, got Leda, got a bunch of us otherwise. So here's how we're playing this. I thought that I would be able to use a randomizer online, show you a legitimate randomizer, so there's no argument. It is real time. Give me a quick second here. I got to make sure I get this snapshot here from my private chat with Rich this morning. Rich played in part with this here with me, and I have the timestamps to prove it. So I'm going to show you my private chat with Rich coming up as I show the winner, at least. But here's how we're playing this out. We're going to be offering 2 coaching packs. They are 3 sessions per coaching pack. One second here. I got to get the right snapshot here. And here's how we're going to play it. Those students that are eligible, again, you need to be a gold, platinum, or diamond student. So, in the event where if you don't know your student level and you somehow give the correct answer, I'm not going to count it. This is for gold, platinum, diamond students only. So here's how we're going to play this. I got 2 numbers that I chose. I sent Rich a private chat at 8:25 this morning with 2 numbers, 1 through 50. The first 2 people that answer, and you only get 1 answer per person so far, so no one doing multiple answers right away, but just 1 per person to begin. 1 per person. 1 per person. I have my whole convo with Rich here. And I'm going to give everyone just, time to answer. I got to scroll up in this chat. This chat's flying here. So give me a second. I'm going from top to bottom right now. It's like I'm picking Powerball numbers here right now. All right. We got 1 winner. We got 1 winner so far. There's 1 number remaining. But our first winner, they wrote it at 12 o'clock. I went in order from top to bottom. Pablo E., one of our platinum students, chose the number 3. So that is the first answer right there. Now, I don't believe that anyone else has answered the second number yet. Nope, no one has answered the second number yet. I just did a search. So keep going right now. John, you got to be a student. You got to be a gold student to apply. Gold, platinum, or diamond student. Just make sure you talk to your education advisor. Leonard, perhaps you as well, my friend. My apologies. But you got to be a gold student and above just to qualify for that. So just talk to your education advisor if you have any interest in learning more about our courses, course packages, etc. All right, let's do another search here. Did anyone come up with it? 1 to 50. We said 1 to 50. Not yet. Still. Still. I got a private chat from Rich saying that I should give it to someone because they were close. I'll tell you what, if I'm giving it to someone because they're close, I might have to give it to the first person that wrote an answer to begin because they were close. They were quite close. And now at this point, since we're running thin on time, that is your hint. How about that? That is your hint. Still. Someone's on the right track, though. I see someone getting close. Someone getting close. Man, I think that everyone's picked every number except for this at this point from 1 through 50. We got like 80 students in this chat board typing numbers. It's crazy. This is the second number. No one stuff was called out. I swear. Oh, this is hilarious. Phil, you're doing something that I would say yes to, but you didn't. Phil got it. Phil got it. There we go. Phil got it. 34. 34 is the answer. And here's the timestamp. Here's the full conversation. Give me a moment here, Rich. Come on now. There we go. 8:22 this morning. So it's not just I picked these numbers out of nowhere. It's not just Josh did this off the tip of the tongue here. 8:25 in the morning. I said I'm doing a raffle. 1 to 50. 34 is the lucky number. And then I said also 3 is the other number I'm choosing. So it's 2 packs, 34 and 3. So for Pablo E and for Phil M, congratulations, gents. You got yourself a few coaching sessions there. Three coaching sessions with each pack. I'll talk to you just later on today about scheduling them over time, but either way, just want to start off this year at least with a little fun. We don't do that as frequent, and we'll likely do that probably at the beginning of next year too. Maybe do more raffles over time throughout this calendar year. But with that said, folks, that was actually pretty fun for that last pick. I was actually mildly comedic. So we're going to wrap up, at least for the time being. Again, for Phil and Pablo, I'll talk to you just later on today about scheduling that at least. But for all of us on YouTube, hey, we invite you to join us inside our live trading room to continue the conversation. For David or all of us just joining us there at Cyber Trading U, just make sure that you're followed and subscribed there first. But if you're interested in joining us inside our live trading room to continue the conversation, just scan that QR code on the top left just of the stream. Get your week-long access to our live trading room alongside our instructors like myself, Rich, and the man himself, Fausto. But I'll be back on later on this afternoon, folks. Talk to everybody soon. Take care.